Hello, everyone. Welcome to Touchdown on True Sports, brought to you by Pickups, your everything on demand delivery app. My name is Chantel Alicia, and I'm going to be your host for today's show. Joining me today are my analysts, Nolan Kangas, Luca Moya, and Stephen Clennon. So we're heading into one of the most exciting weeks of football. We have a full game schedule, meaning 0 teams are on a bye. So we're going to give you the inside scoop on some key matchups and give you some insight on potential playoff teams and whether or not we're going to take them or leave them. So let's get started. We're going to get started with our rapid fire lineup, okay, of would you buy or sell. So game number 1, we've got Baltimore Ravens, 6-4. They had some difficult matchups, losing 3 out of their past 4 games, but somehow they just managed to win against the Colts. So Nolan, buy or sell?
I am going to sell the Baltimore Ravens, and I know that is bold, and I know they have the reigning MVP over there, but that offense is horrific. They can't figure it out at all, and the defense can't stop the run. It's a lot of the same issues as last year. We just saw what happened, against the Titans, and Derrick Henry once again ran all over them, and in that second half torched them like he did in the playoff game. And the thing for me is this offense, we get the weapons, it's pretty much Mark Andrews, and is Willie Snead the number 1 there? We really don't know. The offensive line hasn't been the same. Lamar Jackson, his best attribute is running the football. He hasn't done that enough, which really concerns me. If you look at the first 10 games last year, Lamar ran the ball 116 times for 781 yards. This year through 10 games, 103 times, 575 yards, 200 yards less. It's not cutting it for me. Mark Ingram's on the COVID list. J.K. Dobbins is on the COVID list. It scares me for this team because I think if they lose 2 games, they are out of the race. They pretty much have to. The Steelers game's going to be tough. Coming up this Thursday. If they lose that and lose another one, I think they're done. I'm selling in them.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I had to sit back and really, really think about this one if I want to buy or sell on these Ravens. I mean, last year, so impressive, doing so much and finishing in the top 2 in the division. Just what a fall from grace it's looking like right now. And so I ran it through. I have a model that I run with the New York Times. They have a model that they run. So I ran a couple of these teams through the model. So right now, the Ravens have a 79% chance to make the playoffs out of a 2,100 simulation chart that they ran. Sounds good. Looking at it even deeper, 4 of the last 6 games that these Ravens have are going to be against sub-500 teams. You got the Cowboys, the Jags, the Giants, the Bengals. That works a bit in their favor. So at the same time, looking at that, 3 of the last 6 is going to be against their division. So they got their full division slate to face, so it's going to be hard for them to keep up with everything because especially when you're in a battle with a team like Cleveland trying to get into the playoffs as well. That game against Cleveland, it's going to cost them a lot if they lose it. It'll probably knock them out of position. So they're going to have to win. And just like you said, Nolan, coming up this weekend on Thursday against Pittsburgh, you're missing key pieces on that team, man. You're really going to need your whole team defensively, offensively, if you want to face up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I sit back, I look offensively, these guys are nowhere close to the production that they had last year through the ground or through the air. The defense still looks good. I mean, you got injuries in some key positions. It could be costly. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to buy because I'm going to really predicate this on the ease of the schedule for the remainder of the season. With them facing 4 teams out of the 6 for the rest of the year, and 4 of them, Cowboys, Jags, Giants, Bengals, you should beat those guys. Regardless of if your offense is working or not, your defense should show up. Your offense should produce enough that you guys should beat those guys. So for me, yeah, I'm looking at the Ravens and saying, yeah, I'm going to buy you guys for now.
Yeah, I'm gonna sell on Baltimore because I just don't like what I've seen from Lamar. And you guys, you know how I feel about quarterbacks in this league. And most important position, he is underperforming. It's just as simple as that. And the first year of him full starting MVP season, right? I always look at a quarterback's second year. That's when you have film on the guy. That's when you can really attack their strengths. And that's what they're doing. Nolan pointed out the rushing yards. Well, that's because defensive coordinators are not dumb now. That's what they do for a living. That's how you got to stop it. And they've done a great job at containing him so far, 10 weeks into the season. and they have Pittsburgh still to come up. They have Cleveland again, who they probably have Cleveland's number, but Cleveland did beat them last year when they were, top of the league. I'm going to sell because I think Cleveland could actually tie up that series 1-1. And, the Raiders, man, I know we're probably going to talk about them a little bit later, but they looked good on Sunday night. Didn't get the win, but they looked good. And I just think you look at teams like that in Miami, they didn't have a good week, but they can surprise you in ways and catch the Ravens off guard. I think it all went downhill when they lost to New England. That's a game you need to win, guys. That's a game you need to have. And, gave them another loss. They lost a tiebreaker now with Tennessee. They have it with the Colts, so they better hope that the Colts slip into the wild card so they can have that tiebreaker with them, because if Tennessee ends up winning that division, if the Colts end up winning that division, they're not going to have the tiebreaker with Tennessee. So I think they're really lucky that they have 7 teams, but I still can see them slipping out.
Okay, so next on the list, actually, you called it, Luca, is the Las Vegas Raiders. So they are 6-4, very competitive team. The only team that's defeated KC so far this season, causing KC's one and only loss against them. So are we buying or selling?
I am going to buy the Raiders. And Luca, you mentioned it. They looked really good against the Kansas City Chiefs. That wasn't the first time this season they've looked really good against those Chiefs. Again, they beat them earlier in the year. They are a top 10 run team. What Devontae Booker has rejuvenated his career here. Even if he's the second string running back behind Josh Jacobs, he still has looked really, really good. Darren Waller, we know what he can do. Nelson Aguilar was hated in Philadelphia, and now he's a wide receiver 1. So I think there's enough weapons on this offense. Derek Carr doesn't make mistakes. The defense, I'd like to see them get a little bit more pressure on the quarterback. But right now, I think John Gruden has these guys rolling. I like them right now. And guess what? They've had the hardest schedule in the NFL so far. I can see them getting into the playoffs. I'm buying.
So like you, I'm also buying Nolan. I've liked what I've seen out of these guys so far this season. Running through the same models before, they have a 58% chance to make it to the playoffs. Right now, they would probably make it into that last playoff spot that's available for any teams. The good thing for them is 4 of their last 6 games, again, against some sub-500 teams in the Falcons and the Jets, and then you have your 2 divisional rivals in the Chargers and the Broncos. All 4 of those games are winnable, and I feel like if they win the 4 of those games and lose the other 2, that playoff spot is still there for them. It's available for them. It's open for them. And if things go the way they're going right now, it's likely that they could probably see KC in that first round. Could you imagine that? Them having to play them for a 3rd time and it coming down to like a heartbeat pressure moment? Who knows? But like I said, the other 2 matchups that they have are against the Colts and Dolphins, who are both in the playoff run right now. So to get wins against those guys, it would just further their mission to make the playoffs. Looking at the team, they're a middle-of-the-road team, close to the bottom of the league in most of the defensive categories. So the defense isn't that great. The one thing they're good at is stopping the run. So that should work in their favor against some of these teams. But out of all the teams that I'm buying, I'm probably the most skeptical of these guys because I think they can do it, but at the same time, you have to show it to me. And moving forward, if they can get these wins, if they can go 4-2 over the last 6, I think that's something to show. So the only team that I would really be worried about in terms of coming up on the Raiders would be the Ravens. But if these guys keep doing their thing, hey, man, you guys can rock it out all the way to the playoffs. I'm buying the Raiders.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Raiders, they've impressed, I think the whole league 10 weeks in, right? They've 2 times, honestly, guys, they had the lead with a minute to go in that game against the Chiefs. And if you're playing anyone but Patrick Mahomes in that game, you probably win that game. And so the defense, I agree with you, Nolan. You can't let Patrick Mahomes get to the edge every single time and give him a free space to find it. That's what happened on the touchdown, and Kelsey was open. So they need to, there's little things that the Raiders need to do to become that elite team, but I'm going to buy them as well. I think, John Gruden's done a great job in the couple of years he's been there. I didn't expect him to be this good, this early. A couple of questionable draft picks, taking Cleveland Farrell, 4th overall a couple of years ago, and he's actually been a pretty good player on that defense. So I think the Raiders right now, you look at the AFC, I think they're a team that you could possibly look out for. They can maybe steal a game. What an option. I mean, what a story that would be if they knock out KC in the first round, right? Guys like Stephen, like you were saying. And, now there's 7 teams. KC's not going to get that bye if, the Steelers continue this dominant run. So I think right now the Raiders are a team that a lot of people need to look out for. They're running the football great. And Derek Carr, guys, he's playing really good. He's efficient. Darren Waller, he's his kind of safety blanket. And they haven't really used Henry Ruggs as I thought they would, taking him that high in the draft, loving the speed out of Alabama. Once he gets implemented into the offense, which I hope they end up doing, this is going to be an even more scarier team. So I think the Raiders right now is a definite buy, and they're a pretty good team, and you shouldn't mess with them late in this year.
Okay, so next on the list, we've got the Miami Dolphins, another team that's 6-4. They've had some pretty solid wins against the Rams, Arizona, and the Chargers, but then they lose last week to Denver. So are we buying or selling?
I'm going to sell. That game to Denver, that was so disappointing. And it's crazy to think that was probably a must-win, but everyone already assumed they were going to win because Denver's been so bad. You look at the last 4 weeks of the season for the Dolphins, it's hell. Chiefs, Pats, Raiders, Bills. Pats, you don't know which team you're going to get, but remember, in the beginning of the season, New England did beat Miami. This defense is good, in my opinion. They're not great. I think at times they can stop the pass. Obviously, we know Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. Against the run, they struggle at times. So, for me, the offense isn't there yet, as we know, and there is some question marks. Brian Flores has been absolutely terrific, but the fact that he took Tua out of that game, didn't give him a chance to try and make a comeback and get out of that hole that he was already in, went right back to Fitzpatrick, who was benched earlier in the season, that was really confusing to me. There's too many question marks with this team right now. They are still really young. That offensive line is horrific. This is against a Denver team who we know at times they can create some pressure, and they've been good in some games. But to other games, Denver's defenses looked horrific, and Miami made them look top 10. So to me, I'm going to sell on the Dolphins. This year, they aren't there for me. Maybe next year, adding a couple more pieces, and they'll be a playoff team.
Y'all know I got a soft spot for these Dolphins, man. I really expected, them to do some things, but like Nolan just said, that Denver loss was ugly. Like, I don't think it should have gotten to that point where you guys are losing to Denver, but after putting them through the model, they got a 47% chance to make the playoffs. It's not looking like it's going to be in their favor, man. So at the same time, looking at that, I'm going to have to sell on these guys for the rest of the season. I mean, it's cool. They have they have 3 divisional matchups left, so they still have a chance at winning that division, but it's really going to come down to if these guys are great enough. And at this point, I don't think they're great enough. I think they have a great coach. I think they have a strong defense that's willing to play, but I still think, especially after this loss to the Broncos, it proves that there's going to be some growing pains for this team. You can't expect Tua to come out every single game and dominate. He has stuff to learn and time to learn, so it's going to take time to move and progress forward. I still think they have a shot to get into the playoffs, of course, but it gets bleaker every time they lose to teams they should beat. And looking down the road, like you said, the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Bills, tough schedule. And I don't think it's going to play out in their favor. And, hey, guys, I'd even say maybe the Jets get the upset this week. Who knows? But, yeah, I'm going to sell on the Dolphins for now.
Yeah, this is a game that they needed to win. And you look at the schedule, you're thinking Denver, this is a wash, like you said, Nolan, and they go out and lose. That's not what playoff teams do, and that's why I'm going to sell gladly. Put them in my top 5. Did I jinx them a bit? Maybe. I don't care. I'm kind of happy about it. So, like you said, the schedule doesn't, give them any favors. Brian Flores, I think he's done a fantastic job. I would have liked to see Tua finish out the game. Get a comeback. It wasn't like they were down by like 20 and they were getting destroyed. It was a 1-possession game. And if you're Miami right now, that's a blown opportunity because, again, you do have to play the Bills like you guys stated. You guys would have been tied 7-3, 7-3. The division's still up for grabs. That one game, I know it's just one game, but one game, guys, we all know is crucial. It's very, very crucial, especially when the division is on the line. Now you got to hope Buffalo loses. You don't ever want to put, your trust in another team. So I'm going to sell on Miami gladly. I don't really care about these Dolphins because they're in New England's division, but I like what I've seen, and they're going to be an exciting team in the future. But this year, that Denver loss just doesn't help them.
Okay. So next on the list, we've got Tennessee Titans, currently 7-3. Derrick Henry is on fire. They just had a respectable win against Baltimore, but then earlier this month, they lost to a team like Cincinnati. So are we buying or selling?
This one's so tough for me. It was really tough between Tennessee and Baltimore because I think at their best, Tennessee's one of the better teams in football, but we've seen them at their worst, which is against Cincinnati. This team could either finish 12-4, 11-5, or 10-6. I think that's going to be the lock for this team. Their offense, we know they are good. They rely on Derrick Henry. They rely on the play action and Ryan Tannehill making some plays. The defense, we've talked about it. They can't get to the quarterback, but in moments, they can make big plays. And we saw that, right? We saw them shut down Lamar in certain moments. And this is a defense that hasn't been really good all year. I am going to buy on the Titans. It's scary because that defense is kind of weak, but I think they got a bit of their swagger back in this win against Baltimore. I think they are going to start rolling.
So out of all the teams I ran through that model, the Titans came up with the highest percentage to make the playoffs at 92%.
Woo!
So if I'm
Wow.
sitting there and I'm looking at 92%, I got to say, you know what? I got to buy these guys. I can't sit back and say I can't buy these guys. It looks like right now, 3 of the last 6 games, they face their division. So they still have a shot at competing in that division title. But this game coming up this weekend against the Colts is really going to prove which one of the 2 of them is at that level to win that division and continue moving forward, or kind of, fighting for that wild card spot. But I feel like for the Titans, even if they get into the wild card spot, it's still favorable for them. They have a team that's conducive to playing that slow game and moving the ball forward, taking their time, relying on their defense a bit, and I think they can win a couple of those games down the road. That win over Baltimore this weekend, my Lord, that definitely increased their chances of making the playoffs, because for them to knock Baltimore off and show that they're the more dominant team, because questionable after last year in the playoffs, maybe, it was a fluke moment. Didn't look like no fluke. It looked like they handily dealt with them this past weekend. So you know what? Since they still have a shot to win the division, I'm going to say this, out of all the teams we're about to talk about, this is the only buy that I'm going to certify gets a spot, the Tennessee Titans. I'm buying you to the fullest.
I'm buying them too, Steven. I'm all in on these guys. I think they're one of the best teams in football, like Nolan said, when they're on top of their game. We spoke about Baltimore earlier, and we've talked about how this is a team that is meant to play with the lead. Well, a team that runs a football like Tennessee, to be able to come back like this, they've done it twice now. They cashed in against Baltimore, and we know what happened against the Steelers. The missed kick could have forced overtime. You never know what would have happened there. So I think Tannehill's doing a great job. Mike Vrabel, of course. This is a team that can really get it done, and they stick to their game plan, guys. They give it to their best player in Derrick Henry, and he goes to work. This is, not a good game he was having. And then in the fourth quarter, he just exploded. He just gets better as the game goes on. It's just typical. I mean, you can't really hold him to under 60 yards, a guy like that, when he's running that fast in the fourth quarter. So Tennessee, for sure, I have him up there. Bad loss against Cincinnati. I don't really like that loss. And against the Colts, they kind of came out flat. But I'm still in on Tennessee. I think they can do it. And they can put an upset in the playoffs, because we talked about their defense, guys, but their offense is meant to hold the ball, possession, run the football, play action, pass, run the football. So that's just what they do. They keep the clock ticking. They give their defense a break. If the defense can just make 1 or 2 plays, they're going to be a hard team to beat.
Okay. So then we've got, last but not least, we've got the Cleveland Browns, currently 7-3. Now, every single win that they have has been against a lower ranking team. And then their brutal losses have been against Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Vegas. So are we buying or selling?
I'm going to buy the Browns. That run attack is the best in football. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, holy, that 1-2 punch is disgustingly good, and we've seen it week in and week out. For me, though, I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're a one and done, because you're going to have to ask Baker Mayfield to make some plays. We haven't really seen that all year. That defense is really good up front, stopping the run, getting to the quarterback, forcing turnovers. The secondary scares me at times. They're going to need the perfect matchup in order to win a playoff game, whether that be, say a Tennessee, who, maybe they can slow down the run of Derrick Henry. Maybe it's an Indianapolis team, whether – it's basically a defensive battle. I think they're a one-and-done team, but I still buy into them enough to make the playoffs.
So if you guys have been paying attention, the only team I've sold out is Miami. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. We only have 3 spots, and I'm buying into 4 teams making 3 spots. I know I'm wilding, but I don't even care, because I'm buying into the Browns as well. I'm buying into all 4 of the teams I said. Either way it happens, 3 teams are going to make those positions. I'm buying into all these teams there because I think they all have a shot at that position. One of them's not going to make it. Do I think it's the Browns? Questionable. But put them through the simulation. They had a 68% chance to make the playoffs, which is good in their favor. 3 of their last 6 games, you're looking at 3 sub-500 teams in the Jags, the Giants, and the Jets. So that'll put them at about 10-6 if they can win those. And that seems like a strong record to make the playoffs this year for sure. Only problem is, I think that this team, like you said, Nolan, one and done for sure. I think they rely on that run a little bit too much. And if the game script doesn't go as planned for them and they have to start flinging the ball and throwing it downfield, I think Baker is not the guy for you to be doing that with. Another issue, their defense. That's the centerpiece of the team to me. You have Myles Garrett, you have Denzel Ward. Right now, the 2 of them are out, and that might affect the team going down the road. I'm not sure what COVID is going to do with Myles Garrett or how long he's going to be out for. I think he's going to be missing the game this weekend. And Denzel Ward just got injured, and it's looking like he's going to be out for the next couple weeks. So pushing forward, you want your best guys on the field. When your best guys aren't on the field, it's hard for you guys to get wins all the time. I'm just hoping that the Browns can somehow find a way as a team to pull together and get these wins in the next 6 weeks and forward them into the playoffs. But for now, I'm still buying the Browns.
I mean, I guess I kind of have to buy the Browns after I just kind of went down on the Ravens, who are in their division. I don't like this team, but I think I gotta buy them because I just like them better than Baltimore. Nolan, you spoke about the run game. Chubb and Hunt, man. Oh my! Like, you saw that touchdown by Kareem Hunt. He just jumps over guys and gets a touchdown. I'm like, what? Like, you would not try that on the 1 yard line unless you're a guy who has extreme confidence, and that's what Kareem Hunt has. Remember, this was a guy who, on his first game of his career, destroyed the Patriots by himself, and that's when the Patriots were a really good football team. So, Kareem Hunt, obviously a lot of talent there. They're not playing, Odell Beckham Jr., he's out, but they still win football games because of these guys in the backfield. And they can catch. Kareem Hunt can catch out of the backfield as well. So you have that element of the game, and your offense looks deadly. The only thing about Cleveland to me is Baker Mayfield. He's not the guy I thought he was coming out of the draft. I don't think he's lived up to the number 1 overall pick. He has had some glimpses. He's made some good throws. He's shown games that, man, he can go for 303 touchdowns, but there's no consistency. When you go into the playoffs, you don't have a couple games to figure it out. That's it. It's just right there. And I think whoever they get, probably going to be a lower-end wildcard team. You might have to play the Chiefs, right? You might have to play the Colts. And I think they can – or I don't think they can win. Sorry, I just don't think so. But I like them better than Baltimore because Baltimore guys, oh, my goodness, they just don't look good at all. So I'm going with Cleveland to buy. Don't really like them, but they're better than Baltimore in my opinion.
That was a great discussion, guys. So that's going to take us to Thursday, all-day football. I'd like to start by saying on behalf of all of us here at True Sports Football, we like to wish the United States of America a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. So let's get started with our game predictions for Thursday. So first game starting us off for the day is Houston versus Detroit. Stephen, what are your predictions for that game?
So, as it is tradition, the Detroit Lions have a non-consequential Thursday Thanksgiving game against whatever team they're playing. This one means especially nothing this year because they're playing the Houston Texans. But, you could call this game whatever you want to call it, the scroll through your phone bowl or the it looks nicer outside extravaganza. However you want to put it down, there's a chance it could be an offensive showcase since both teams are super bad. The Texans are favored to win. Okay, cool. The over-under is 51. Okay, cool. I think either way, this game's probably not worth the time. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I just think it's one you can skip for the day if you want to help mom in the kitchen cook up the meal or you want to go play with the cousins outside. Sure, this is the one you could miss. But the way I'm looking at it, the Texans probably win it 28-23 or something to that. But it is what it is. I'm not really interested in this game.
I'm just glad it's not against Chicago. I mean, every single year, the first game is Detroit versus Chicago. I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, here we go. Chase Daniel, and here we go. David Blau last season. I'm like, oh, my goodness. I got to sit through this. I agree with you, Steven. I don't think this is the marquee game of Thanksgiving, but Detroit has to have a Thanksgiving game for some reason. And there they are playing the Houston Texans, who are very bad, don't have a first-round pick. They got nothing to play for, really. So it's pretty much a wash-up. I'm going to go with Houston as well. Deshaun Watson, best player on the field. And, we saw what he did against New England. He loves playing against Bill Belichick in that defense because every time he plays them, he tears them up. And I got to sit there and watch that. So Deshaun Watson, I think he's going to get the job done. Similar score to yours, 27-21.
Yeah, I believe the Lions have lost 3 straight Thanksgiving games, make it 4. I have Houston in this one. We saw the way P.J. Walker moved the football on the Detroit Lions, and he wasn't terrific, but for a former XFL MVP or whatever he was, he didn't have an awful game against the Lions. The Lions did have a horrific game. DeAndre Swift, he might be out Thursday as well. Deshaun Watson is a superstar. I have the Texans 31-23 in that opening sleep fest.
Nice. Okay, so our second game of the afternoon, we've got Washington versus Dallas.
All right, so this game, you know what? I was sitting back. I said, you know what? I'm not excited for this game either. But then I took a closer look. I said, this game is actually super important in the grand scale of things. Because looking at it right now, either one of these teams could win the NFC East, and it's just that simple. Breaking it down, it's like a matchup of the losing records, but it doesn't really mean anything when it comes down to it, right? Somebody's got to win this division. And these two teams here are both candidates right now. They're both coming off wins over substandard teams. I apologize, Nolan, on my behalf. I know it's hard. But these guys look like they're playing more improved and inspired football on both sides. It was nice to see Dalton come back and have a good game. And that Washington offense versus that Dallas defense, that's a level match. But the question mark comes, can that Dallas offense beat that Washington defense that's been so stout? I think if Zeke can get the ball in his hands and replicate what he did last week, and Dalton can manage the game, hey man, the Dallas Cowboys should be able to pull this one off. The win should be in their pocket. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a happy turkey day in Dallas. The Washington football team will win this one 20-17. Let's go, football team.
I'm excited for this game. I mean, when you look at two bad teams, usually it's going to be a terrible game, but I think it's got to be pretty good. Dallas and Washington, they have everything to play for. I don't think any of these teams care about getting a top pick in the draft, because at this point, I would have just packed it in. Let's go. Let's get a top pick. Let's get back for next year. But Dallas, they win. They win. They beat the Vikings. I'm sorry, Nolan, but come on. Why? What's the point? And then you got to hear Cowboys fans saying, oh, we're going to get a home playoff game. You're going to get bounced round one anyways. I think it's going to be an exciting game because it's a divisional game. These two guys, they usually play on Thanksgiving. Kirk Cousins, he was on Washington the last time I think these two teams played. And they lost, but he played pretty good. So I'm expecting another hard-fought battle between these two teams. I'm going to take Dallas just because they've surprised me. I thought, honestly, halfway through the year, they were worse than the Jets. I really did. But they have shown some promise here, midway through the year. And I think they're going to come out with this win, 27-24.
So that game against Minnesota, obviously heartbreaking, kind of puts Minnesota out of the playoff race. But this Washington team is different than this Minnesota team. We saw the way Kirk Cousins moved the ball. He looked terrific against Dallas. Dalvin Cook, again, looked terrific. Jefferson, Thielen, they all look good. The difference is that Vikings defense is horrific. And the Washington defense can get after the quarterback, and they have a top 5 pass defense in the National Football League. So for me, I'm taking Washington. I think Alex Smith is going to be able to move the ball. Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, it's a pretty good 1-2 punch in the backfield. Terry McLaurin should go for 15 catches or something ridiculous against this secondary. I have Washington 27-17, kind of putting Dallas out of the playoff race, but I said Washington. They would be the team to win this division. I still think they have a chance, but they need to win this game to prove it.
Okay. And then concluding our Thursday night, we've got Baltimore versus Pittsburgh.
So for me, I'm just happy that they made like a short-proof like primetime game. So we know that something proper is going to happen at this late night game for Thanksgiving. Bellies are going to be full. People are going to be sitting back, relaxing. You know what? The last time these guys played each other earlier in the season, it was a classical division barn burner. Great game. And the Steelers found a way to come back and win. So that's always great. But with this game, I just don't see the Ravens keeping up with them this time. I don't see the Ravens having a lead. I don't see the Ravens coming back to win. I just see the Steelers, what is it, gold and black or black and yellow, however you want to put it. I just see them wiping these Ravens all over the floor, sending them home crying, and possibly knocking them out of playoff contention. Missing pieces due to injury and COVID for the Ravens and facing a fully weaponized Steeler team doesn't equal success. Steelers win this one 30-17 blowout.
I got
Okay.
I got the Steelers as well. Don't like Baltimore. I think the defense can do enough to stop Lamar Jackson. And if Baltimore gets down in this game, they ain't coming back. Steelers at home, 30-20.
Yeah, in order for the Baltimore to win this game, Lamar's got to run for about 150 yards and actually throw for 300. And is he going to do that against his defense? No way, Jose. I actually have the Steelers 31, Ravens 20. It's going to be a bit of a blowout, and the Steelers are going to move to 11-0. Or would they be 12-0? No, 11-0 at that point.
11.
So that is a really good football team, Ravens. It's getting ugly.
Well, we'll find out Thursday night. So that's going to take us to our top 5 power ranking teams after week 11. So I'm going to get us started off here. So this was a very difficult week for me, guys. So I've got a tie. My number 5, I have the Titans and Colts, both at 5. Both great teams, playing great. Wanted to give them recognition. Number 4, I've got the Seahawks. They came out and really dominated that game. They were definitely aggressors. Number 3, the Saints played really great against Atlanta, minus the fact that they didn't have Drew Brees. Number 2, Pittsburgh. I moved them down from 1 to 2 just because they played the second worst team in the league, and I wanted to make room for Kansas City, number 1, against the Raiders.
I had a toss-up here at number 5. It was between the Bills and the Rams, and I just picked the Bills just because they beat them earlier in the year. That's the only reason I'm picking them. I think the Rams look really good. I'm going to stick with Buffalo. Number 4, I got to give the Colts some love. I think they are a great team. The defense, they're showing up. Phillip Rivers doesn't have to do much because Hines, out of that backfield, he can make some big-time plays, and their tight ends, they can make plays as well. Number 3, the Saints. No Drew Brees, no problem. Taysom Hill and Sean Payton. I think he dialed up a pretty good game calling, and, he wasn't doing so good. They were making him throw a lot more than I thought they should have, but they stuck to the run. Taysom Hill got the win. I don't think he's that good anyways, but they did it. It's Atlanta. Who cares? Number 2, Pittsburgh. The Steelers, they're 10-0. Hard to go, not to put them number 1, but I don't have them 1 because I just think Kansas City is just too good. Mahomes, they're just never out of it. We saw that Sunday night. They were down and out, but Mahomes right down the field in it seemed like 30 seconds. So Kansas City in there, still on number 1.
It's so tough, and you're right. A ton of toss-ups here. Titans were a toss-up for me. Colts, I'm not ready to put them there just because I actually don't have enough faith in the Packers as a really good football team. So for me, 5, we just saw them play the Rams. They look really good right now. That defense is scary, and the offense is clicking. For the Bills beat the Rams earlier this year. The Bills have beaten the Seahawks, so I moved them up in like an edge. I know they didn't play, but guess what? Their defense will be back. We know how good they are, and Josh Allen is an MVP candidate. 3, the Saints. I hate the Taysom Hill plays. You're right, Luca. I don't know why they didn't run the ball more, but it is Atlanta. That defense is horrific, so maybe they just wanted to try out some things. Sean Payton, he's a wild man. 2, Steelers, right? The Chiefs for me are just a step above, and I think everybody knows that. And I feel like Steelers fans always in our comments, what about Big Ben? What about the Steelers? If those teams faced off right now, guess who's winning? Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. That's why I have the Chiefs 1.
All right, so I debated putting the Colts in at number 5, but you know what? I couldn't do it. I just had to look at the Seattle Seahawks and say, you know what? A bounce-back win against the Cardinals, and the defense finally won them a game. Mm-hmm. Huge sack by Carlos Dunlap to win that game. Nice. Look at the next 4 games for them. They got 4 opponents under 500. This could be the build to some momentum heading to the playoffs. Number 4, I got the LA Rams. Yo, these guys did nice. They beat the Seahawks the week before, took out the Buccaneers with ease this week. God, they just hopped into the driver's seat, and they're in control of their destiny in that NFC West right now. Number 3, I got the New Orleans Saints. Listen, my apologies to Taysom Hill. Last week I said some mean things to you. Perhaps you are a QB, perhaps.
No, don't go that far.
Okay, maybe he isn't. But the Saints defense, the first 5 games, these guys were allowing 30 points per game. Now it's down to 14.4. These guys are looking scary headed into that playoff run. Number 2, I don't like this. I like to have 1A and 1B. I don't like having a number 2 because number 2, I'm going to put the Chiefs there. I know all you guys are with them, but that was a tight win versus the Raiders. And I know it was nice to see them taken to their limit and that they can overcome their limits and win the game. But you know what? I just didn't like how it looked. I wanted them to get that sturdy win. And number 1, top 5, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. These guys went and committed homicide in Jacksonville this past weekend, and it was looking good. They're the juggernaut on the field, and they've been portraying it all season. Let's keep it going.
Okay, so there you have it, our top 5 picks heading into week 12. It was so great chatting with you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us on Touchdown with True Sports, brought to you by Pickups, your everything on demand delivery app. We'll see you next week.